I returned to my childhood home last autumn. I was 33 and wanted to capture the beauty of the season. The fall leaves reminded me of simpler times. It felt familiar but also different. Maybe it was the weight of memories or the tall trees leaning over the path. My family home was in rough shape. The paint was peeling, and every creak of the old wood sounded like whispers in the night. I could almost hear my mother's laugh and my father's voice, but their sounds felt buried. I was determined to reconnect, to take photos that would reflect my love for this place. On the second night I went outside. I crouched by the old oak tree near the fence with my camera. It was quiet. A heavy quiet. I heard a crackling sound. Maybe the wind? I brushed it off. I wanted that perfect shot. But as I focused on the leaves, an unsettling feeling crept over me. As I roamed around for the next few days, I noticed shadows flitting between the trees at dusk. They darted just out of sight. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination or something else. A chill ran down my spine. My heart started to race and I stepped back. I tried to focus on taking pictures, but the odd feelings lurked in the back of my mind. One evening at the diner, I chatted with some locals. They acted strange when I mentioned the woods. Their eyes darted, and they exchanged worried glances. I could feel something was off, but I didn't know what it was. I felt like I was digging where I shouldn't. As the days went by, each night, things grew weirder. Those shadows. I kept seeing movement, but it would vanish when I turned my head. I wanted to shake it off as just my childhood fears. But whispers started too. People talking about legends I didn't know. Figures in the woods and things that should stay hidden. By my last night I stood outside, staring into the trees. My heart raced again. A flicker caught my attention, but when I looked, nothing was there. Just darkness staring back. It felt like something was watching me. Then I heard a voice. Soft but clear. Wesley. I spun around. My stomach dropped. Nobody was there. Just the looming trees, their crooked branches pointed like fingers. I felt a wave of sick fear wash over me. What was lurking in those woods? I couldn't shake that thought. I turned back to the trees, shadows dancing, and the night sky above felt heavy. Would I find beauty in the season, or was I stumbling into something I couldn't understand? The trees seemed to shift as I stood there waiting. I didn't know what was out there, but I had the sense I would find out soon. The next day, I woke up to a thick fog hanging low over the ground. It blanketed everything, making the world feel muted. The sun struggled to break through, but that only added to the eerie atmosphere. I grabbed my camera and decided to wander through the woods. I wanted to create something beautiful, to shake off the strange feelings. As I walked, the air felt different. There was a damp chill that seeped into my bones. The trees loomed closer, their twisted branches reaching for me like hands. I felt the urge to turn back, but I pushed it aside. Maybe I'd find that perfect shot today. A burst of color in the fog. Suddenly I spotted something. A glimmer of light caught my attention deep in the woods. I squinted, curiosity pulling me in. I stepped off the path, toward the glow. It felt like I was in a dream, where everything was just slightly off. As I approached, the light flickered, dimming and brightening like a heartbeat. My heart pounded as I drew closer. There was something there, a small clearing illuminated by the strange light. At the center stood an old stone statue covered in moss and vines. It looked like a figure, but I couldn't quite make it out. It felt both inviting and foreboding. That's when I heard it again, a whisper. Wesley. This time it was stronger, almost urgent. The sound wrapped around me like a cold wind. I froze, instincts screaming at me to get away. I looked around, but I was alone. The trees seemed to watch, their shadows bending in peculiar shapes. I took a step back, heart racing. I didn't want to be there anymore. Just as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. My breath hitched in my throat. A figure stood there, half hidden behind a tree. The fog obscured its features, but I felt a sense of dread wash over me. "Wesley," the voice called again, softer this time. It wasn't threatening, but something about it felt off. I wanted to run, but my legs felt rooted to the ground. Each heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out every other sound. Gritting my teeth, I forced myself to look closer. The figure took a step forward, but then the fog shifted, swallowing it whole. A chill swept through me, and all I could think was that I needed to get back. I stumbled away from the clearing, the eerie whispers dancing around me like mocking laughter. When I finally broke through the trees and onto the path, the chill didn't leave me. I rushed back to the house, my mind racing with thoughts of the statue and the voice. What did it mean? The legends I had heard buzzed in my mind like angry bees. As I entered the house, I slammed the door behind me. I needed to gather myself to make sense of it all. But as I turned to the window, I saw it again, the light flickering just beyond the trees. I felt a pull, as if it was calling me back. Was I brave enough to face whatever was waiting in the woods? Or was I fooling myself by thinking I could uncover the secrets buried here? I felt a wave of uncertainty. Tomorrow, I would have to decide. The next morning I woke up later than usual. The sun shone brightly, pushing the fog away like a bad dream. I decided to take another walk in the woods, tempted by the memory of that strange light. I felt restless, like I needed an answer for what had happened. I grabbed my camera again, hoping to capture something that would make sense of it all. The air was fresh, but it couldn't shake the unease lingering from my last visit. I stepped outside and headed toward the path, each step feeling heavier. As I ventured deeper into the woods, I recalled the whispers. Wesley. My name echoed in my mind. Had I imagined the voice? I shivered at the idea that it was real. Even the sunlight didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like a spotlight exposing my fears. I reached the clearing, heart thumping as I approached the statue. It stood unchanged, a silent sentinel cloaked in shadows. I squinted at it. Was it watching me? I took several pictures, constantly glancing around, half expecting that figure to reappear. Suddenly something caught my eye. A small, smooth stone embedded in the ground near the statue's base. It was unlike the others surrounding it, glowing faintly, as if it pulsed with energy. I knelt down, reaching for it. The moment my fingers touched the stone, a surge of heat coursed through me, and the world around me blurred. Then everything went dark. I blinked, and the fog returned, wrapping around me like a blanket. I felt disoriented. The statue loomed larger than before, its features sharper, almost alive. I tried to stand, but my legs felt weak. Panic surged through me. I hadn't been gone long, but the woods felt different now, more alive, as if the trees were quietly observing. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement again. Not the figure from before, but something darting between the trees. I squinted and saw shadows flitting, just beyond my line of sight. My heart pounded as I turned, trying to catch a glimpse, but they vanished. Wesley. The whisper echoed once more, sending chills down my spine. I stumbled back, the stone slipping from my fingers. It rolled away and disappeared into the fog. I cursed myself for letting it go. What had it meant? I needed to find it. I took a step toward where it had fallen, but a sudden wind whipped through the clearing, knocking me off balance. I turned to leave, but that's when I realized I wasn't alone. Figures began emerging from the fog, faces barely visible. They looked like shadows shaped into human forms, with dark eyes that watched me intently. Panic ignited within me as I faced them. This time I knew I had to run. I sprinted back toward the path, heart racing. The whispers grew louder, filling my ears with a chorus of voices, each one calling my name. The trees closed in around me, branches scratching at my skin. I stumbled, but I couldn't stop. I had to reach the edge of the woods. Then everything shifted again. The ground trembled as if the earth itself responded to my fear. I had a feeling something terrible awaited me if I didn't escape soon. And that's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me, quickening in pace. I realized someone, or something, was chasing me. I ran without looking back, adrenaline pumping through me. The footsteps were growing louder, almost like a rhythm, echoing in sync with my frantic heartbeat. Every step felt heavy, dragging me down as I darted through the trees. I didn't know what was chasing me, and I didn't plan to find out. Branches whipped at my arms and legs like angry fingers. I stumbled on twisted roots, fighting to regain my balance. The whispers transformed into a chaotic cacophony in my mind, all calling my name. The sound became a strange melody that intertwined with the footsteps, urging me to keep moving. Wesley, they echoed, filled with urgency. The path was in sight, a narrow ribbon of safety that promised escape. Relief washed over me, but just as I reached for it, my foot caught on something hidden in the underbrush. I fell forward, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot through my knee, but I pushed myself up, forcing my body to move despite the sharp sting. I couldn't stop. I clawed at the ground, scrambling back to my feet. That was when I caught a glimpse of movement behind me. A dark figure emerged from the fog, just on the edge of the trees. It didn't appear human. Its shape elongated and twisted, like a shadow stretched too thin. I felt my breath catch in my throat, panic spreading through me like wildfire. I sprinted again towards the path, each step filled with determination. I could see the trees starting to thin out ahead, and beyond them, the sunlit clearing that led back to the road. With every ounce of strength I had left, I pushed myself forward, praying I wouldn't look back. Another rush of wind slammed into me and I staggered. I was almost there, but the figure was closer now. I felt its presence, almost tangible. It sent a chill down my spine, filling me with dread. That whisper crept back, low but clear. Wesley. A surge of sheer panic propelled me. I burst through the trees and felt the grass beneath my feet. I looked back one last time. Hopeless, but desperate. The figure halted at the edge where the light met the dark, its form wavering like smoke. I shivered, unsure of what I was seeing, but one thing was clear. It was not crossing into the light. I didn't care why. I took off, running towards home. I didn't stop even when the path beneath me changed from dirt to gravel. I pounded my heart out, ignoring the burning in my lungs, until the woods faded behind me. When I finally reached my house, I slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. My hands trembled as I leaned against it, taking deep breaths. I pressed my eyes shut, trying to calm the frantic thoughts racing through my mind. But the moment I opened them, I noticed something at my feet. The small stone I had dropped in the woods was sitting there, glowing softly. Confusion washed over me. How could it be here? A new wave of anxiety hit. I bent down, reaching for it. As my fingers brushed against the smooth surface, visions crashed into my mind, flashes of the statue, glimpses of the shadowy figures and faces twisted in pain. I jerked my hand back, the fear surging again. Something was very wrong. I staggered back, unsure of what to do next. I was desperate for answers, but faced with new mysteries. The stone pulsed in my hand, inviting and threatening all at once. I stood there, heart racing, wondering what I had awakened. Would the figures return? And why had they followed me? The night was still far from over. I paced the living room, frantically trying to shake off the lingering dread. The stone was still glowing at my feet, its soft light illuminating the shadows creeping across the walls. I stared at it, half expecting it to react further or whisper something more, but all it did was pulse gently, as if waiting for me to make a move. After gathering my courage, I reached for the stone again. This time, I gripped it firmly, almost as if it had the strength to ward off whatever was lurking outside. I took a deep breath and focused. What did this mean, and why did I feel so drawn to it? Suddenly, the air shifted around me. It felt heavier, laden with tension. The whispers from the woods returned, now fainter but still present, swirling through my mind like a fog. I needed to know the truth behind it all. I had to understand what was happening. The statue flashed through my mind, its strange carvings, the way the figures seemed to be screaming in silence. I needed to go back to the woods. The thought made my stomach drop, but I realized it was the only way to find answers. I couldn't let fear control me. With the stone clutched tightly in my hand, I retrieved my flashlight and headed towards the back door. I paused, checking the windows, listening closely for any signs of movement outside. Everything was quiet, too quiet. My heart thumped in my chest as I opened the door, the cool night air brushing past me. As I stepped outside, I felt a mixture of determination and fear. The forest loomed ahead, darker than before, swallowing the path in shadow. I flicked on the flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark, leading me forward. Each step was hesitant, the crunch of gravel beneath my shoes loud in the stillness. Once I reached the edge of the trees, I hesitated, flashing the light through the dense underbrush. The shadows danced like living creatures, twisting and morphing as I moved deeper. I was just about to turn back when a flash of movement caught my eye. Something darted between the trees, a quick shape, barely visible. I shone my flashlight in its direction, but it vanished into the shadows. My breath hitched in my throat. I wasn't alone. Then the whispers grew louder. Wesley. The voice was clearer this time, ringing in my ears, drawing me in like a siren's call. I squeezed the stone, feeling its warmth seep into my palm. This was where I had to be. But as I stepped further into the woods, dread began to claw at me again. I turned off the flashlight, relying on my instincts to guide me through the darkness. That was when I heard it. A low growl, reverberating around me, sending chills racing down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. There was no response, just the rustling leaves and my own heartbeat echoing in the silence. That's when I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes peered back at me from behind a tree, unblinking and intent. My stomach dropped, and I took a cautious step back. The figure was moving closer now, and all I could do was stand frozen, the stone pulsing in my hand like a warning. I knew I had made a mistake by coming back here. Now, with the eyes closing in, I had to decide, stay and confront whatever this was, or run back home and hope the shadows wouldn't follow. The eyes were closer now, shimmering like twin lanterns in the dark. I could see the outline of a large creature, its shape obscured by the night. Panic rushed through me, and I felt the urge to bolt back toward the path I had just crossed. But the stone in my hand felt like a lifeline grounding me, cold sweat beading on my forehead. "Wesley." The voice rang out again, sharper this time, echoing from the depths of the trees. It was a name I hadn't heard in ages, yet it resonated deeply, like a bell tolling in the silence. I glanced around for any signs of the source. Was someone playing a cruel trick on me? Then the growl came again, louder, more menacing. It vibrated through the ground beneath me. I had a fleeting thought that whatever was watching could sense my fear. My heart raced, and I squeezed the stone tighter, its warmth amplifying my determination. I needed to know who or what was speaking my name and watching me. "Show yourself!" I shouted, my voice shaky. The words echoed through the forest, swallowed by the night. I half expected no reaction, but the growl intensified, sending a shudder through the trees. The eyes remained fixed on me, then slowly retreated into the shadows, but the tension didn't lift. They were still there, perhaps gathering around me, watching and waiting. Fighting back my fear, I took a step forward, the flashlight forgotten at my side. I couldn't stand still. Curiosity warred with dread, and every instinct screamed at me to leave. But my feet moved against my will, drawn in by the whispers calling my name. Then I saw it. A flicker of movement just beyond the trees. Another figure? No, it felt different, more substantial, like a creature of the night, but I couldn't clearly define it. Dread curled in my stomach as I edged closer, the stone pulsing steadily in my palm, urging me on. "Is someone there?" I called again, forcing the words out. A rustle answered my inquiry, but nothing appeared. It was an unsettling game of hide-and-seek, and I was the unwilling player. I took a deep breath and pushed further into the woods. My pulse matched the glow of the stone as I moved into a small clearing. It felt almost sacred, the air dense and still. That's when I noticed the ground in front of me. It was different. Uneven, matted down as if something had lain there. But then I realized it wasn't just soil. I knelt closer, shocked to find a cluster of small stones arranged in a circle, eerily similar to the one I had found earlier at the statue in my backyard. My gut twisted with apprehension. My thoughts raced. Were these stones connected? What were they trying to tell me? Then I felt a rush of something behind me, a presence closing in. I turned too quickly, the flashlight beam sweeping across the edge of the trees. And then, in that moment, everything went dark. The flashlight flickered and died. I was surrounded by suffocating darkness, the whispers growing louder, intertwining with my panicked breaths. I fumbled for the stone, its glow my only comfort, but fear coursed through me. I had lost both my light and my way. "Wesley," a voice muttered from somewhere deep within the woods. The call was both familiar and foreign. My heart sank. Could it be the same voice, the one I was drawn to? I tried to make sense of it all as fear gripped my throat. Then came the realization something was tracking me and I had ventured too deep. I had to find my way back, but in every direction the trees loomed like silent guardians, their whispers echoing my name. My heart thundered in my chest, each beat a desperate reminder that I was not alone. The darkness felt suffocating, wrapping around me like a shroud. The whispers transformed into a low growl, circling me, stirring the air with a sense of urgency that sent chills racing down my spine. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust to the murky void. There was a distinct vibration in the air, a strange energy that felt both hostile and foreboding. My fingers nervously traced the smooth surface of the stone, as if seeking reassurance. I needed to focus. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. "Wesley." The voice came again, this time almost pleading. It pierced the tension and I felt a strange compulsion to respond. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper now. The growling receded momentarily, giving way to silence that felt heavy and alive. I strained my ears, hoping for any sign of movement, but it only deepened my sense of isolation. Then I saw it, a faint glow breaking through the distant trees. It flickered like a candle dancing in the darkness. My instincts screamed to flee, yet curiosity compelled me to take a step towards it. Each movement felt like a betrayal to my instincts, but I couldn't help myself. I moved cautiously, careful to avoid any twigs that might snap underfoot. The glow expanded, revealing more than before, a figure standing at the edge of the clearing, partially illuminated by the light. My throat tightened as I strained to see through the shadows. "Wesley." It called again, softer now, a melody of something lost and forgotten. There it was, the shape of a person, or perhaps a spectre. Familiar yet distant, its features blurred by the flickering glow. I wanted to turn and run, but the pull was stronger than my fear. "Who are you?" I demanded loudly. The words echoed harshly in the quiet, as if daring the darkness to answer. The figure didn't move, but the glow brightened momentarily, revealing streaks of hair, tangled and wild. It looked like someone I knew, but the face remained obscured. Before I could speak again, that low growl rose once more, now reverberating through my very being. It came from the direction of the flickering light. The creature was no longer just lurking. It had emerged from the shadows, its presence undeniable. Panic surged as the figure turned towards the creature, a mix of fear and recognition in its stance. "Run!" it shouted, breaking the spell that held me captive. I didn't hesitate. Instinct took over and I sprinted back into the trees, heart pounding, the whispers turning into frantic whispers behind me. Branches grasped at my clothes as I dodged and wove through the dark. The stone in my hand pulsed in rhythm with my flight, urging me to escape. I had no idea what was chasing me, but adrenaline fueled my legs. I flashed into another clearing, desperate for a moment of clarity. The glimmer of the stone illuminated the rocky ground, and my breath caught as I saw something glimmering nearby. Another of those strange stones, just like the ones I had discovered before. Had I stumbled onto something more? I could hear the growl fading behind me, but the chase was not over. I shoved the new stone into my pocket and turned to flee again. But as I took my first step into the woods, the whispers came back, clearer now and filled with urgency. "Wesley, find us." The forest thickened around me, and I knew that answers awaited if I dared to seek them, but danger was close behind. I could feel it closing in, drawing nearer every second. I took a deep breath to steady my racing heart, but it felt futile in the face of the looming uncertainty. I knew I had to keep moving, yet something in me hesitated. The whispers echoed in my mind. "Wesley, find us." And their urgency made me feel strangely tethered to this place. Forcing myself to focus, I turned deeper into the woods, the shadows swallowing me whole as the light of the clearing dwindled behind. I could still hear the distant growls, now mixed with rustling leaves, a reminder that I wasn't alone in my flight. The forest felt alive around me, each crack of a twig sounding like a proclamation of that fact. I stumbled through the underbrush, the rough ground testing my resolve. The weight of the stone in my pocket comforted me, anchoring my thoughts. Thoughts of the figure flickered across my mind. Was it a friend or foe? Could they help me understand what was happening? But before I could dwell too long on it, a burst of movement caught my eye, a shadow darting between the trees. I halted, every muscle in my body tensed. "Show yourself!" I shouted, the command sounding more confident than I felt. The figure hesitated, then stepped into a thin shaft of moonlight. It was a woman, with hair like fire, and eyes that glinted with an ethereal glow. There was something hauntingly familiar about her, and my breath caught in my throat. She wore a flowing dress that sparkled faintly, almost like it was woven from stars themselves. "Wesley, you must listen to me," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "You're in danger. They are coming." Who are you?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "I'm here to help," she replied, stepping closer, the glow around her intensifying. "But we have no time. We must reach the altar." "Altar?" My mind raced. "What altar?" "The stones of Ashford. You're not just running from them. You're running toward something powerful." I hesitated, trying to process the rush of information. "What do you mean?" "Those stones." She pointed toward my pocket. "They can protect you, but you must act quickly." Before I could respond, a loud crash erupted behind me, followed by guttural snarls that echoed ominously in the night. The growling I had heard earlier was now closer, more aggressive, and I could feel the ground vibrating beneath the weight of whatever stalked us. The woman's expression turned grave. "We have to move. Now!" With her urging, I followed her blindly through the dense underbrush, my instincts screaming at me to trust her. The growls deepened, echoing like thunder through the trees. I glanced back once, catching a glimpse of dark shapes pulsating beneath the moon, much larger than I had imagined. "Don't look back," she commanded. "Focus on me, Wesley." I fought to keep pace, my heart hammering in my chest. Through the chaos, a sudden realization struck me. I was not just fleeing a threat, I was being guided toward something, and there was no turning back now. That's when I heard it, a deep, resonant call, echoing from somewhere deep within the forest. A haunting invitation that sent ripples of doubt through me. Wesley, join us. The sound was unsettling, a stark contrast to the urgency of our flight. I locked eyes with the woman beside me, and for a moment, we both froze in fear. I could feel the presence closing in, and the choice was clear. Follow her into the unknown or face whatever was behind me. "Trust me," she shouted, and I nodded fiercely, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that something greater awaited in the darkness. I sprinted after her, each step heavy with dread and adrenaline. The moonlight barely pierced the dense canopy above us, and I only had her glowing form to guide me. I stumbled over roots and branches, the forest roaring with life and shadow as the growls grew ever closer, a sinister symphony that echoed in my veins. "Where is the altar?" I gasped, my breath escaping in sharp bursts. I could feel the ground trembling as whatever was hunting us drew nearer. "Just ahead," she called, urgency lacing her tone. I caught a fleeting glimpse of something, a stone structure half hidden by thick vines and underbrush, ancient and worn. The sanctuary of the stones of Ashford was real, and it was finally within reach. As we approached, I saw the stones rise, jagged and majestic, a circle of silent giants seeming to hum with energy. The air crackled with an almost tangible power, as if the stones held a breath ready to be exhaled. But right at that moment, a roar erupted behind us, loud and terrifying. I turned, and terror gripped my heart. Dark figures broke through the underbrush, tall and hulking, eyes glinting like coals in the night. The growling crescendoed into a deafening chorus, and I felt as though I was in the grip of a nightmare. "Now, Wesley!" the woman shouted, pulling me closer to the stones. Without thinking, I reached into my pocket, fumbling for the stone I had carried with me. It felt warm against my palm, almost alive. "Place it there," she directed, pointing to a small altar in the center of the stone circle. I ran to it, willing my trembling legs to move faster, and set the stone down. The moment it touched the worn surface, a shockwave rippled through the air. The stones began to glow, a light blinding and powerful. I turned back just in time to see the dark figures skirting the edge of the light, their growls morphing into snarls of frustration. They hesitated, as if drawn to the glow, but also repelled by its power. I looked to the woman who stood beside me, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "What's happening?" I shouted over the raging sounds. "The stones, they're protecting us," she yelled, "but we must unlock their true power." My heart raced as I searched for any sign of what to do next. The energy pulsing from the altar was overwhelming. It felt as if the stones were alive, whispering secrets in a language lost to time. "Concentrate, Wesley," she urged. "We need your energy to activate them." "What do I do?" I asked, panic rising as the dark figures grew restless, inching closer. "Focus on the bond you feel," she replied. "The connection to this place." I closed my eyes, taking a steadying breath as I tried to remember the whispers that had called me here. A strange sense of belonging surged within me. I could feel the stones resonating with my heartbeat, responding to my thoughts and fears. "Wesley, now, let the energy flow through you." Her voice snapped me back, and I reached deep within myself. I poured out my fear, my hope, and everything I had in that moment. The stones erupted in bright light, shooting beams upwards and surrounding us in a protective barrier. The growls turned frantic, the dark figures recoiling as the power intensified. But then something shifted. I felt a sudden pressure, as if the air was thick with something more sinister. I opened my eyes, only to see a shadow forming at the edge of the circle, something larger, shifting, and darker than the creatures surrounding us. As it stepped into the light, my stomach dropped. It was monstrous, its form a twisted mockery of life, eyes locked onto mine with an eerie intelligence. It was not just a beast, it was something far worse, a harbinger of doom that knew exactly what it wanted. And then a voice cold and dripping with malice echoed within my mind. "Wesley, you cannot hide from your fate." Panic seized me and I stumbled back, my heart racing faster than I could comprehend. As I reached for the woman, she gripped my wrist, her gaze steady. "We have to hold on longer," she urged. But doubt crept in. What did it mean? What fate awaited me? I could almost feel the pull of its dark promise, and I knew I had to face it. Suddenly, everything went dark. The world blurred back into focus, light spilling through an ethereal mist. I gasped, realizing I was still grasping the stone tightly in my hand. The familiar buzz of energy surrounded me, electric and crackling. But where was the altar? Where was the woman? I opened my eyes and found myself standing alone in a vast, empty space. Drifting shadows lingered by the corners of my vision, whispering my name, echoes of the dark chase I had just endured. The intense growl still resonated in my mind, a low rumble promising danger with every pulse of my heart. "Wesley." I turned, and there it was again, the voice floating through the air like an inviting breeze. I strained my eyes, searching the void, but no figure emerged. Panic clawed at me, forcing me to step backward, my breath quickening. With trembling fingers, I lifted the glowing stone. Its light illuminated scattered shards of broken stones, remnants of the altar. My heart raced as fragments of memory flooded back. The woman's eyes, the urgency in her voice. "Focus on the bond you feel." Instinctively, I pressed the stone to my chest, trying to connect with whatever energy lay within it. Suddenly, the shadows grew thicker, swirling around me, brushing my skin with an icy, fragile veil of uncertainty. "Find us." The whisper echoed again, insistent and sharp, sinking into my bones as if pulling me. Questions flooded my mind. Where had the woman gone? Did she escape, or had she fallen prey to that looming darkness? I had to make a choice. Would I stand here trapped in uncertainty, or push forward and confront whatever awaited? Compelled by desperation, I summoned my courage and took a step into the mist. The shadows recoiled as the stone pulsed with warmth, illuminating my path. I moved cautiously, the flicker of light revealing more shattered remnants. Tendrils of fear traveled up my spine each time I thought of that creature. It had been watching me, waiting for the moment I would falter. My heart thumped violently, each beat a reminder of the darkness I couldn't shake off. I called out, "Who are you? What do you want?" Silence followed my desperate shout, thickening the air around me. But then a figure formed just beyond the edge of the light. My pulse quickened. I prepared to flee, but the figure stepped into the glow, revealing itself to be the woman. "Wesley," she exclaimed, rushing towards me. "You need to come back. They can sense you." A rush of relief washed over me, but confusion still clouded my thoughts. "What is this place?" I asked, scanning the vastness around us that felt like an endless dream. "It's the space between," she explained, her expression somber. "A liminal space where the boundaries are blurred. They can't cross if we don't allow them to." "Who are they?" I pressed, the urgency growing as the shadows began to ripple, their whispers rising again. "The beings that draw power from fear and despair. They manipulate emotions, feed off the energy of confusion." Her eyes shone with earnest desperation. "We must reach the heart of the veil. You have the strength to break it, Wesley, but first, we need to anchor our resolve." "Anchor," I stammered. "Together we must focus on the light," she urged, urgency thrumming through her voice. "The powerful energy of the stones is waning, and the darkness seeks to envelop us. You need to hold on to hope, to the beauty you captured." Thinking of the pictures I'd taken, I entered a mental state of calm, recalling the color and warmth of autumn leaves. The essence of my connection to this place surged through me. The laughter of my family, the tranquil mornings spent in the woods. And with that I gripped the stone and closed my eyes, channeling everything I could muster. The woman's presence beside me was a steady reminder of purpose. Suddenly, the shadows around us writhed, growing chaotic, as though agitated by our combined resolve. I felt the power in the stone swell, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. "Now, Wesley, let it shine," she called. I exhaled deeply, and with that breath, light burst forth from the stone. It radiated outward, breaking into 1,000 brilliant shards, pushing away the shadows and illuminating the void. I caught sight of the figures lurking outside the reach of our circle, dark and twisted, their eyes widening as they recoiled from the pure glow. But then I felt her grip tighten on my arm, as though she sensed a shift in the atmosphere. "Wesley, it's not enough. We must reach the core." I opened my eyes to see the shadows forming faces, their expressions twisted in anger and despair. They reached for me, clawing at the edges of the light with desperate, grasping fingers, but my resolve trembled at the negative energy they exuded. "Find your strength, embrace the light," she urged. I summoned every ounce of will. I thought of home, of those precious memories, and the connections we form through love and laughter. I envisioned the beauty of life overwhelming the darkness, tasting the sweetness of every moment. With one final surge, I unleashed the energy, channeling everything into the light. The shadows shrieked, their form undulating as the light pierced the darkness like a lighthouse in a storm. Then, just as quickly as it began, the darkness receded. The space twisted and warped, the figures fading back into the void from which they came. In that chaotic moment, I felt the pull of 1,000 voices, each resonating with both grief and relief. My vision warped as the last remnants of shadow vanished. I gasped, the world around me transitioning into brilliance, filled with warmth and color before collapsing back into nothingness. And in an instant, I found myself alone again, standing in my childhood home, the faint light of dawn creeping through the window. I blinked, letting reality settle around me as I looked down. My hand was still tightly clenching the glowing stone. Questions lingered, but I felt a sense of calm wash over me. In my heart, I understood I had survived, but there was still an unsettling ache, an unknown that lingered in the corners of my mind. What had I awakened? Would they return? I would never have the answers I sought. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, rising to face the day. I glanced outside, wondering if the shadows would still linger in the woods, waiting just out of sight. For now, I knew that I would carry the light of that experience within, a beacon against whatever darkness might come next. I settled the stone on the windowsill, a tether between worlds, a reminder that some mysteries are forever bound to the lives we live, always whispering in the shadows.